of leg, its muscles, vessels, and nerves. The competencies that are covered in this are explaining the anatomical basis of locking and unlocking of knee joint, then explaining the anatomical basis of osteoarthritis and muscles of back half leg, their attachment, nerve supply and action, and important nerves and vessels of back half leg. First, we'll start with the anatomical basis of locking and unlocking of knee joint. The medial rotation of femur on the upper surface of tibia during the terminal stages of extension of knee joint is referred as locking. Many theories are put forward to explain this locking of knee joint. Those include based on the form of the articular surfaces. Second is influence of the ligaments on extension of knee joint and action of muscles on the knee joint. So these three things are put forward in explanation of the locking of knee joint. Coming to mechanism of locking, it is said there is congruency in the lateral half of joint. Then there is shorter curve of the lateral femoral condyle which becomes exhausted earlier, and there is early tightening of the anterior cruciate ligament, thus terminating the extension of the lateral condyle of the femur. So these three are there involved in the mechanism of locking. Further, the posterior cruciate ligament holds back the forward movement of the femur, and there is also a special role of the articular surfaces in producing the rotation leading to locking of the knee joint. Further, there is medial rotation of tibia upon the contraction of the quadriceps muscle. So these six factors help in the mechanism of locking. Then coming to bony factors as such in the role of locking, there is unequal curvilinear lengths of the femoral condyles. There is unequal curvilinear lengths of the femoral condyles. There is high bicondylar angle, and there is flattening of distal articular surfaces of the femoral condyles. These are the bony factors which play a role in the locking mechanism of the knee joint. Then we go to anatomical basis of osteoarthritis. A universal feature of end-stage osteoarthritis is what is radiographically seen, that is, loss of joint space, and associated with articular cartilage loss. This has been observed in arthroscopy. Coming to anatomical basis of osteoarthritis, the disease is supposed to be initiated and its progression are related to thinning and softening of articular cartilage, and there will be progressive joint deterioration. If this is the explanation, this becomes too simple answer for osteoarthritis. So it is accepted by many that there is complex interaction between various repair and regenerative mechanisms following an initial damage to the cartilage or the knee joint. So, present days, the blame is being shifted to another area, that is subchondral bone. Associated with this, there is also limited emphasis is being given to the other structures. So now we start the muscles of the back of leg, and there is one superficial layer followed by deep layer. So first we'll start with the triceps surae. It consists of 3 heads. So it consists of the medial head of gastrocnemius, lateral head of gastrocnemius, and soleus. Coming to origin, the medial head of gastrocnemius takes origin from medial epicondyle of femur. The lateral head of gastrocnemius takes origin from lateral epicondyle of the femur. Coming to soleus, it takes origin from head of fibula and the soleal line. Coming to insertion, they are inserted together by a common tendon that is called as calcanean tendon, also called as Achilles tendon. Coming to action, the action of triceps surae, that is all the 3 muscles, is plantar flexion of the foot, and the nerve supply is by tibial nerve. Another muscle which is in the back of leg is plantaris. Origin is from popliteal surface of femur. Insertion. This tendon merges with the calcanean tendon, that is Achilles tendon, and gets inserted into tuber calcanei. Action is plantar flexion of the foot. Nerve supply is the tibial nerve. This muscle is rudimentary, corresponding to palmaris longus of upper extremity, and it is missing in 5% of the cases. Popliteus. This is an important muscle. This muscle is also called unlocking muscle of the knee joint. Origin is popliteal groove present over lateral epicondyle of the femur. Insertion into posterior surface of tibia, that is upper tibia, that is above the soleus muscle. Action, flexion of the knee joint, and also medial rotation in the flexed knee joint. Nerve supply is tibial nerve, and this muscle also forms the floor of popliteal fossa. Then we come to another muscle, that is tibialis posterior. This muscle originates from interosseous membrane and adjacent surfaces of tibia and fibula. It gets inserted into all the tarsal bones, navicular bone, all the cuneiform bones and the cuboid bone, and also into bases of 2nd to 4th metatarsal. Action is plantar flexion, eversion of the foot, and it helps in maintaining longitudinal arch of the foot. The nerve is the tibial nerve. Then we come to another muscle, that is flexor digitorum longus. Origin is the medial posterior surface of tibia. Insertion into terminal phalanges of 2nd to 5th digits. Action, plantar flexion of digits and foot, and this muscle also helps in maintaining the longitudinal arch of the foot. Nerve supply is the tibial nerve. Then we go to another muscle, that is flexor hallucis longus. Origin is from the distal 2/3 posterior surface of fibula and the adjacent to interosseous membrane. Insertion is into terminal phalanx of the big toe, that is first digit. Action is similar, that is flexion of the first digit, plantar flexion of the foot, and also helps in maintaining the longitudinal arch of the foot. Nerve supply is tibial nerve. So we have completed the muscles of the back of leg. Then we go to posterior tibial nerve. This nerve is tibial nerve. This is also called as posterior tibial nerve because it runs with the posterior tibial artery. At the ankle, it is vulnerable to entrapment at it is vulnerable for entrapment at two anatomic sites. The more important site is the tarsal tunnel, that is when the tibial nerve travels under the flexor retinaculum of the ankle. The proximal entrapment of the tibial nerve is at the tendinous arch between the two heads of soleus muscle behind the knee. This condition is called as soleus sling syndrome, and this condition can exacerbate tarsal tunnel syndrome symptoms via a double crush effect. In soleus sling syndrome, it presents with pain in the popliteal fossa or the proximal calf, which is aggravated by active and passive dorsiflexion of the foot. Further, there is inability to bear weight, weakness of toe flexion, and sensory deficits on the sole of foot aggravated by walking. Course of the tibial nerve. Tibial nerve is larger terminal branch of sciatic nerve. It runs down back of leg to the foot. It gives off branches to the muscles of thigh. It crosses the middle of the popliteal fossa. Then it is under the tendinous arch of soleus muscle. It supplies all the calf and foot flexor muscles. It divides into plantar divisions, that is medial and lateral plantar nerves near or in the tunnel, that is fibro-osseous tarsal tunnel. The roof of the tunnel is formed by flexor retinaculum. The tunnel has three tendons, that is tibialis posterior, and tendons of flexor digitorum longus and tendon of flexor hallucis longus. And the neurovascular bundle includes the tibial nerve and the posterior tibial artery. Branches. This terminates into three terminal branches in the tarsal tunnel, and the branches are lateral plantar nerve, medial plantar nerve, and medial calcaneal nerve. Nerve entrapment. Pressure around the posterior tibial nerve is increased significantly with dorsiflexion of the foot, foot eversion, as well as with inversion. In nerve entrapment, there is numbness of the sole of foot and great toe, and tenderness in the proximal calf. Tinel sign. There can be positive tinel sign, that is on percussion, there is pain is elicited at the calf approximately 5 centimeters below the medial tibial plateau, that is upper surface of tibia. Then we come to posterior tibial artery. It is one of the terminal branches of popliteal artery. The beginning is at the level of lower border of popliteus muscle. Termination at the distal border of flexor retinaculum. Beginning at the level of lower border of popliteus and termination at the distal border of flexor retinaculum. Course. During the course, it successfully runs or lies on tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus, tibia, and back of leg. It is accompanied by two venae commutatis. It is related to the tibial nerve. The tibial nerve, which was earlier on the medial side, but it soon becomes superficial, and in the greater part of its course, it is on the lateral side. Coming to branches, at the distal border of flexor retinaculum, it terminates by dividing into medial and lateral plantar arteries. Its pulsation can be felt at its termination, that is midway between median malleolus and medial tubercle of calcaneum. The branches of posterior tibial artery include circumflex fibular, peroneal, nutrient artery of tibia, communicating branch, medial malleolar branches, perforator branches, medial calculent branches, before dividing into terminal branches, that is medial and lateral plantar arteries. Thank you.